Before we begin, thank you very much to Smaller Big Convoy, the A Gimmick Accessory, for pitching in over on Ko-fi. It's a Smaller Big Convoy. The A Gimmick... Okay, something went wrong there. I have no idea what this means. I am sorry. I have no idea what this means. Is it a convoy small enough to just be a gimmick accessory? Because they've done that. I think they did that in the Legends versions of like all the Titans Return toys. Maybe, kinda. I forget. But thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution. So today it is Skybound, because we just got to see issue 28, which means we get to do my usual 2-issue reviews. Now, this is going to be a little bit different. Number one, I'm thinking of going monthly with this and just doing each one. You know, it's strike while the iron's hot. Normally, I like the delay. Because I want to encourage people to actually read the book. I don't want to be one of those YouTubers that review these books and use it as a way of like replacing going off to read it yourself. I'd rather me be about summarizing and giving my thoughts and theories. Like, that's the difference between me and the others. But that said, striking while the iron's hot is usually better performing, so I need to do more of that. But for now, we're going to be looking at issue 27 and 28 of the Skybound books, and we're going to be doing it in chunks. Like, we're going to be looking at like storylines that go through both issues all at once. And we're going to start right where we see on the cover, because of course this is the part I was most excited about. So we have Thundercracker, who is trying to find his place in the universe. We leave off on him feeling betrayed because, you know, his brother Skywarp rejected him after the Autobots repaired him. And that gives Megatron one more on his team. So that didn't work out very well. And that's considering that Skywarp actually did play ball with the Autobots after they like saved him as part of Teletran 1. It's a little bit disappointing, but also it's kind of made clear he didn't really remember it, so it's kind of a blank slate kind of thing. But no, it's the big feature in issue 27 is the fact that Optimus and Thundercracker sit down and just talk things out. It's something that they never really did in the IDW books, because by the time Thundercracker was ready to leave the Decepticons, Optimus was in a different headspace. He wasn't like proper Optimus. He was like a lot more... I'm not going to go into that section. It wasn't like proper Optimus. This is Skybound Optimus. This is peak Optimus Prime, and we love peak Optimus Prime here. So they're having this heart-to-heart about their mutual disgust of the violence in this war. You know, and especially what's been going on with the Decepticons and the humans. Like, Thundercracker hates this. Like, and it's fun. It's fascinating to see these two sitting down. And not only because I love good guy Thundercracker, you know, but also because Optimus himself is showing what Optimus is supposed to be. You know, this is why, like, original G1 Optimus doesn't just kill Megatron when he has the chance and just end a war. It's because he wants to fight to an understanding or a surrender. He doesn't want any more bloodshed of any Cybertronian enemy or not. And this is a great example of Optimus trying diplomacy and trying to just find common mutual ground. You know, and it's what Thundercracker needs. We see this everywhere with Optimus Prime. It's a huge thing in these books that Optimus has waited so long to get himself repaired, prioritizing literally everyone he can. I'm going to show you later on what our roster of Autobots looks like right now in the books. It's gotten bigger, and he is still considering everyone else who could possibly be repaired, even the other Decepticons on the Ark. He would even save an enemy rather than himself. That's Optimus Prime. That's the hero thing to do. Thundercracker has to talk him down from that idea because he knows how bad of an idea that is. I've seen people comment that it's interesting that two of the ones shown here in this panel are Blitzwing and Slipstream, two Decepticons that in past series have been willing to help the Autobots. I don't think there is anything to that. I think Blitzwing is there because he is a prominent and popular Decepticon that has not been shown on the roster yet. I think Slipstream is there because they're setting up for more females in the roster in the first place, because it is very thin. You know, we've got Arcee and Elita 1, and that's basically it. Decepticons need somebody. So this is kind of just setting up for that eventuality. So Optimus has been peak, as usual. And it led to something IDW never gave us, and that is a proper Autobot Thundercracker. And it's good to see. It's very good to see. You know, Thundercracker at his original concept would have ended up like this if they'd actually stuck to the original bio. I remember, like, I did a whole video when this happened, because I was that excited to talk about it. And someone in that comment section said, like, why just repeat the characters over and over? Why just repeat what IDW did? Just like, why won't you let them just do something different? I'm like, this is only the second time they've done this. Thundercracker spent almost 40 years as just Starscream's goon. Like, please, let him be what he was originally designed to be. Because this is Thundercracker in a very different situation than where he was in IDW. He's not joined up with the humans and the EDC. He's with the Autobots, genuinely. So, and I hope it's genuine. Things like that little cutaway of his grin right there make me think like there might be a little bit something to this. Maybe some kind of plan, some kind of ulterior motive. There's little seeds in there that make me doubt. That's just my paranoia going. We do see Thundercracker paying Optimus Prime's kindness forward. Soundwave attempted an attack, and after the Decepticons left him behind, got captured. Now he's stuck in the Ark as a prisoner, and basically mocking Thundercracker for his new allegiance. But that's not what matters to him. What matters is he was given a moment to decide, this is too far. This is too cruel. This is completely unnecessary. And it showed him just how cruel the Decepticons could be. And it's not what Thundercracker wanted. So that is why he made his decision. And facing that in front of Soundwave, throwing that at Soundwave, does make him recall when the Decepticons were cruel to him. Starscream's blatant mistreatment of Ravage and refusal to repair him in the earlier issues, and the fact that no Decepticon stepped up to defend that, by the way. You know, so there are these moments that Soundwave can actually relate to, and it makes me curious what they're going to do with the direction of Soundwave, because we've also seen in the past where Soundwave has enough logic in him to know what is best, but enough emotion to go with what, you know, is important to him at the same time. You know, we saw that with IDW 1.0, where he remained a Decepticon but allied to Optimus Prime because their needs aligned. We saw that in Cyberverse, where he had this like weird bromance with Hot Rod that was actually really cool to watch. So now I'm curious what they're going to do with Soundwave, because he's been in a position that Thundercracker found himself in, and, you know, that's the choice. Who are you really? This is the moment to tell you who you really are. So that's where, like, the most fascinating storyline to me is right now. So I told you we had a roster here, so let's show you all of the new faces that have joined since we started repairing everybody en masse. So we add a completely repaired Jetfire to the roster. Cool. But we've also added Blaster, Brawn, Sideswipe, Mirage, and Bulkhead. So we are up a lot. By my count, you know, like this panel in general are just like 8 Autobots who were not present for the first big battle between Autobots versus Decepticons, right? They were not there for like the issue 25 battle. So this sways things heavily in the Autobot favor, you know. the Decepticons got Skywarp back, but that's really it. You know, they don't have, you know, they lost Starscream in the process. So really, they're breaking even right now. And it's nice to see, like, after like a 2-year run of Decepticons kind of being in the advantage because they had more combiners, it's nice to see that the Autobots actually have numbers on their side for once. I think the most interesting one here outside of Thundercracker, obviously, is the inclusion of Bulkhead. Not a G1 character, but we know Hasbro's been trying to push him into the G1 canon. And yeah, he is more along the lines of like his Generations toy, the one that no one liked, recall. But it's interesting to see him chosen, not only because Brawn is in the roster, who also joined up. So now you have two big powerhouse characters, like one physically big, but both of them are depicted as very physically strong. And I feel like that's a little redundant to include both. But also, you would expect this to be like Ironhide's role. So like, we have no sign of Ironhide in this book. What is made clear here, I'll give it this before I move on. I'll give them this much credit. I'm glad they aren't just doing stock G1 cast. Let's put it that way. I'm glad they're willing to throw in a few curveballs and change things up and not just stick to the status quo. So let's put it that way. It's not a bad thing that they picked Bulkhead. It's just interesting. I'm curious what they're going to do with the character outside of just like being the big guy on the team. You know, I want to see that choice justified. I think it's because Hound is in the G.I. Joe books right now, so they just have room on the roster for a green Autobot. No, but what is made clear at this point is that all of the Autobots that they have available on the Ark to be repaired have been now repaired by Teletran 1, to the point where Optimus is finally comfortable repairing himself. That does not include Bumblebee or Ratchet, who they still have the bodies of. However, it is made very clear that they are beyond Teletran 1 to repair, and it is mentioned that even the Well of All Sparks might not save them. That absolutely means the Well of All Sparks is going to save them, right? There's no way you keep Bumblebee completely dead. There's no way you keep cutting back to his corpse if you didn't plan on bringing him back eventually. And now you've set up Chekhov's gun in Act 2, and we're going to play it off in Act 3. You know, like, you can't just mention like an alternate way of reviving Transformers and then not use it. So we know that's going to come up eventually. So that's how Bumblebee, potentially even Ratchet, will eventually come back to life. So, yeah, it's a very obvious nod. It's a very obvious thing that they will be doing. They also mentioned that there are potentially other Autobots who were lost, who fell out of the Ark before it crash landed. That's what happened to Hound, for instance. That is what happened to Bulkhead and, I want to say, Mirage. So there's that possibility too, that there are other lingering Transformers out there that still have yet to be revived. They just, you know, they fell off the wreck. And they haven't mentioned who was actually on like the full crew roster to tell us who's missing at the moment, because it's open-ended. It's going to be whatever the writers want at the time. There's another major story arc that goes between both issues. So we've seen Ultra Magnus's doubts, both with his PTSD over, you know, a century of torture at the hands of Shockwave, as well as his failure to defeat Megatron during like the final battle of the first arc. So he's doubting his position, also rubbing the wrong way against General Flag, their human ally. So at the moment, he doesn't think he's suitable for the role of Magnus, and he wants to pass it on to Arcee. And this is fascinating to me. And I'm going to show you what happened before we get to the part that's fascinating. So they undergo a ritual where Arcee is battling with past Magnuses, like in like a spiritual plane, like in like, I don't know, mental cyberspace, whatever. And when she wakes up, she looks like this. She actually has aspects of Ultra Magnus as part of her design. She has the shoulder pylons. She has the rocket launchers. She's got horns on her helmet now. This is a fascinating choice. Not only because, one, it's the first full redesign we've had of a G1 character since these books started. It's them going against status quo. But also, it's a very different way of treating Magnus. In this way, Magnus is almost like Prime was in the original G1 fiction, a role that can be handed down and actually upgrades the new user. It's not clear whether or not Teletran 1 rebuilt Arcee like this after the ceremony, or if the ceremony itself has some kind of transformational effect to it. They don't really make that terribly clear, but it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool to see other roles outside of Prime that can do the same thing that Primes do, right down to communing with their predecessors, by the way. As far as the design goes itself, overall, I like it. I think there might be a little bit... I think the shoulder rockets are a little bit too far. Yeah, just because I think that's a little bit too signature Magnus. I feel like if she had her own weapons off the shoulders, that would be a little bit more convincing. Like, it was a little bit more her design rather than just like her adopting that aspect of the character. But overall, I like it. I mean, it's what I like. Like I keep saying, Arcee needs a permanent, bulkier look to her because she can't get a good toy keeping that feminine design from the 86 movie. I'm not sure how I feel about the huge backpack on her, though. Her normal backpack has like quadrupled in length, and now there's a giant cannon stuffed between them. Makes me very curious what she actually transforms into now. We don't get to see it. Magnus is staying as a Magnus. He's just in the background now. He's not the forefront, not the frontline general that the Magnus seems to be in these books. So it essentially sets up Arcee as a second in command. And I'm not entirely sure that's the right role just yet. We saw she deals with these wild anger issues in the first 2 years of the books. It's one of the ways they alluded to the Autobots potentially being a lot more violent in the past than they are now. So there's that to consider. I don't know if they dropped that plot point or if this is her growing out of it. Either way, it's still a fascinating choice. Like, it changes up a lot in these books. So those are your major storylines. Let's touch on the little things here. So to update you on the mask side of things, Flags got impatient with Miles Mayhem not producing the results he keeps claiming exists, and essentially has him arrested, like brands him a traitor because he's basically just a loose cannon at this point. But what Miles has not said is that not only has he studied the Transformers enough to know how to create his Venom mask, but also, or Viper mask rather, but also he's built the Switchblade and uses it to escape. So he's become capable of he's studied Transformer tech enough with the help of Flag to actually create transforming vehicles. So it's a cool way of getting Mask in here. I worry that it might be overcomplicating a book that's already got a lot of plot points going on, as you can see by the runtime of this video. But I'm cool, and I'm happy to see there's progress here. And they've already announced here, they've teased that they're bringing in Matt Tracker, so we're going to get the other side of the Mask story. I'm hoping once this is established, this spins off into its own book and maybe doesn't crowd the Transformer books quite as much. It still puts Flag in this weird position where I don't think he's a bad guy, but I think he's hedging his bets by like wanting someone to study these giant alien robots and come up with a countermeasure for them. That's just kind of how the military types and these things go. On the other human side of things, you've got Spike and Carly basically trying to settle back into just normal life. There's not really a whole lot to report on them. You know, they want to go on dates again. They want to live in a normal house and sleep in a normal bed again, not worry about a jet fighter showing up to murder them all the time. Spike implies that he's got new plans for his future, but we don't get to find out about that just yet. one of the least interesting things happening in the book right now. So that's just a background story. Again, I feel like the mask stuff, trying to get that established, is taking away from like the core Transformer stories being told. And these are the humans of the Transformer stories. So yeah, I would really like to hear more from them. I'd like them to have a bigger role. Also, I'd love to see if there's anything residual left over from that whole Matrix connection with Prime. Like, we seem to have dropped that as well. I don't know if that, again, I don't know if that's fully resolved because of, like, the shenanigans in issue 26, or if there's still going to be some residual connection with Spike, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure they'll touch on something of it eventually. I don't know, this is just a part of the story I'm the least interested about. Now, we also barely touch on Cliffjumper's mission on Cybertron. He's trying to infiltrate the space bridge to prove himself to Elita 1. And that's really all that's happening. This is just literally just 2 pages to remind us it's happening. And 1 page is completely devoted to showing us Shockwave's alive. And doing like this weird Spider-Man pose at the top of a tower. I don't know why. But it puts a major antagonist on Cybertron, which I feel like the Cybertron side of the story absolutely needs. Because it seems like Elita 1 herself is going to end up as a major antagonist toward Optimus Prime at this point. We're going to have something that's very, very rare, which is an Autobot civil war. I don't think we've seen that since loyalties got divided in the Marvel G1 books. Back when there was a power vacuum Grimlock was trying to fill. And, like, Blaster was in the mix on that, too. If I remember right, it's been a hot minute. Still, we're setting up interesting things on Cybertron. We're just barely talking about them across the 2 issues. Also, Megatron's losing it. He's still getting visions from Desimir, the one who gave him his gun alt mode and its creepy, like, mental takeover powers. So Megatron just seems to be going like a little bit psychopath, just a little bit psychopath. So it's important to note that it seems like both Autobots and Decepticons have the same idea here, which is to just directly target the other right now. We see Arcee Magnus telling doing the roll call and telling everyone to transform, which is cool. Arcee asserting herself in her new second-in-command role, but it seems like that Megatron and the Decepticons have the same idea of, like, yeah, let's just go, like, directly attack the Autobots our way. Trailbreaker wasn't in that roll call. Why do I have to watch him die? Every time. I thought we were using Trailbreaker because they didn't want to use Ironhide, because Ironhide is so used in any G1 story. I thought we were keeping Trailbreaker around. He came in real handy a few times in these books. But no, Megatron kills him off just as a show of power, just as an example. And then Megatron proceeds to drink his dripping energon and promising him a permanent death, i.e. no Teletran, no Well of Sparks, nothing bringing him back. It's disgusting. Just if you thought that the change in writer and artist was going to tone down the level of robot violence in this book, no, that ain't happening. So that is where we stand on the Skybound books right now. The Thundercracker stuff, of course, I'm absolutely loving. Optimus continues to be the best Optimus we have had in a long time. The Decepticons don't seem to be doing much of anything other than just getting ready to do, like, the Decepticon thing of being violent and attacking. And I'm really curious as to what Thundercracker is going to do when he has to face off against former allies, and especially like ones like Skywarp that he considers a brother. I really want to see what Arcee Magnus transforms into now that she has what apparently looks like a giant cannon and these gigantic chunks of something hanging off her back. Beyond that, Shockwave being alive is weird. I will note Shredhead is literally a background character in both of these issues. It's kind of weird. The character I called a self-insert Mary Sue during the first run of books is somehow noticeably getting less and less time on the pages now that the original writer is no longer writing. It's almost as if I was right about them being a shameless self-insert, and the new writer is not nearly as interested in them. I'm sure it'll come back. I'm sure Shredhead will get their time to shine again. It's just kind of nice to not have a scene in a book that's all about, isn't Shredhead great? Shredhead's the best. Yes, no, take some time off from Shredhead. We got cooler stuff going on. But that's going to be it. That's my look at issue 27 and 28 of Skybound. As usual, these are absolutely worth your time to read all the way through. Now, obviously, I have not talked about nearly everything in these books. So, yeah, those are the thoughts for the day. Thank you very much for watching. Always appreciate it. And as always, I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.